So we are talking about this chapter, business structure. Okay. So when I'm talking about business structure, there are two parts. There are business sectors. Can you tell me how many business sectors do we have?
3.
3.
Three? Only three?
Two.
Only two?
Private and public.
Yeah, primary,
No, that's tertiary. There's
secondary,
primary, tertiary, and secondary,
primary,
and economic,
tertiary. What else?
and economic.
Quaternary, private sector, and public sector. Do you know about all of these sectors? When we're talking about these economic sectors, we have this economic sector. The first economic sector is the primary sector. So when I'm talking about the primary sector, it is based on raw material. Yes?
Yeah.
Secondary sector is concerned with the production and manufacturing of the goods. Tertiary sector is the service-based sector. And quaternary sector is the sector that works mostly on information. It is information-based sector. So you have four sectors: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Please write it. I'll wait. When we're talking about the quaternary sector, that is your information-based sector. That means the sector that works on data, like your stock markets, IT markets. So these are all quaternary sector. This sector works purely on data. Are you with me?
Yes, miss.
So primary,
Yes.
secondary, tertiary, and quaternary sector.
Yeah.
Also, we have which sector? Private sector, and we have the public sector.
Of quaternary.
Primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, private, and public sector. With me?
Yeah.
So when I am talking about the primary sector, what is a primary sector?
It relies on raw materials.
Raw materials like what? What are you actually talking about?
Need natural resources like wood, water, oil, and l- mining fuel and metals.
It is actually using your natural resources. So primary sector is something that does business using natural resources, something that is provided by nature. So
Yeah.
farming is primary sector, fishing, extract oil from the ground. So all these industries, they extract natural resources. So industries that extract natural resources that can be used by other firms are primary sector. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So that extract resources, natural resources, and give their material to somebody else is primary sector. Confirm? Secondary sector. What is a secondary sector?
It manufactures and processes products.
So
Like they
secondary sector will basically do what? They will use the finished product of the primary sector and make another product. Okay. The primary sector also covers fishing, extracting oil from mines, fuels, metals. This all is primary sector. Now, when I'm talking about the secondary sector makes product from output of the primary sector. Say, my primary sector has output as cotton. Okay. Output of the primary sector is cotton. So secondary sector will use this cotton and make shirts. Are you with me? Can you give me another example?
Primary gets wheat and secondary turns the wheat into bread.
Into flour and then bread.
Yeah.
Farhan, can you give me one example?
Of primary and secondary.
Output of
Okay, so
primary will be used by the secondary.
okay. Um, Fishing for primary and for secondary, like cooking or selling.
I want sorry.
So for primary is water
Hmm.
and secondary is selling it. Like I don't like manufacturing like a bottle or selling it. Is that does that count?
Could be, but can you give me a better example?
I can't think of a better example. Like most of my better examples taken.
You have fruits which is extracted.
Yeah,
Can water putting in a bottle, water bottle, how can that be an example, Farhan?
yeah,
Fruit
yeah.
that is extracted, it is converted into juice. So the output of the primary sector becomes the input of the secondary sector, and that is used to make a finished product.
Okay, yeah, understood.
Okay. Anything else that
Uh,
you can think of?
Wool being extracted from sheep and then being
Okay,
turned into clothes.
very good. Okay, so yes,
woods, Miss Wood,
wool, wood, yeah, wood.
not wool. We are wood, then like turning into houses.
Turning into furniture. Very good. Super. Okay.
Mm,
So now our secondary sector includes manufacturing, construction, using input from primary sector, making a finished goods for the secondary sector. Okay.
mm.
What is a tertiary sector? Now, tertiary sector is the largest sector and it's the fastest growing sector. It includes all services. Can you give me examples of services that is within the tertiary sector?
Hotels,
Nursery,
Okay. What else?
airports,
Airports,
banks,
banks,
schools.
insurance, then
um,
nature, education, distribution,
Yeah, school.
all industry that is not buying and selling anything, but it is just providing services. Just
Mm,
yeah,
providing services comes in the tertiary sector. And quaternary sector is the information based sector. Are you with me?
yeah,
yeah.
Now we talk about the other two sectors, that is the private sector and public sector. Do you know about private and public sector?
Um,
uh,
Public is government based, like governments control it, and their main aim is to provide service to the customers rather than profit.
Mhm. And
and
private?
private sector's aim is to make profit.
Okay, but whom it is owned, control, and managed?
By
For private
individual.
sector is a group of individuals, shareholders.
So you will see management. It should be owned,
Mm,
controlled, and managed. I'm repeating the word. If the sector is owned, controlled, and managed by private individuals or maybe a group of individuals, then that sector becomes the private sector.
mm,
Hmm.
If it is controlled and managed by the central or the local government, owned, controlled, and managed by the central or the local government, then that sector becomes the public sector.
yeah,
With me totally?
Hmm.
So public sectors are basically they are owned by the government, local councils, police, armed services, local schools, libraries. These are all examples of public sectors. Can you give me examples of public sectors in UAE?
Uh, Saint Mary's School, that's a
Hmm?
public sector. Public sectors like government, so it's basically schools and libraries.
Like,
Saint Mary's School,
okay,
Sharjah Library,
okay,
Kuwaiti Hospital.
okay. So the RTA is the main example in Dubai for the public sector. It is
Yeah.
managed and controlled by the government. Other than the government, nobody can enter into the RTA, the public
Yeah.
taxis. Okay. Now let's talk about the public sector.
Mm.
How about the public sector?
The examples,
Hmm.
uh, s- like schools, tuition centers,
Hmm.
and
Hospitals.
Hmm.
libraries,
Okay.
and
Examples of
that's the
public
only.
sector. Examples of the public sector. Okay, one more thing. Public sector exists to provide service to people. Okay.
Mm.
To provide services to the public, not making a profit. Now, when I'm talking about the private sector, so what is the first thing that you will say? That it should be owned, controlled, and managed by whom? It is owned, controlled, and managed by individuals or a group of
Mm.
individuals. Okay?
Okay.
Most companies in a mixed economy where public can also do business and government can also do business, okay,
Mm.
are private sectors. When you talk about private sectors, they will always be having the word limited, LTD, limited, or PLC
Yeah.
besides the name. It means that they are what? Private sectors.
Mm.
Main aim
Okay.
of the private sector is not to provide services, but the main aim of the private sector is to make profit.
Understood.
The main aim of the private sector is to make profits. What is profit?
The extra money generated by business.
Okay, fine. Now, can you tell me what is the advantages of a public sector and disadvantages of a public sector?
The finances raised by the government. It's government paid.
Okay, government paid. What else?
And another thing is much faster to grow than a private sector.
I said advantages.
Oh, okay.
Advantages of public sectors. First advantage of Fatima, can you tell me some advantages of public corporations?
Since they're based off of, like, their main aim is making giving service to customers, they would lack in finance. Like, they would not gain enough profit.
I'm talking about advantages. I will give you some time. Just see the
Mm.
advantages and disadvantages of public corporation. I will come back and explain, but I want you to first figure out. Come. Start with advantages and disadvantages of public corporation. Can you all start?
Yeah, me first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they are managed with social objectives rather than solely with profit objectives. So, basically, the advantage of public corporations are that they're not being managed with profitable objectives, and rather they're being managed with social objectives. So it kind of, I guess, I don't know how to say it, gives variety to their work, and they won't be very limited with their
Their work.
services. They won't be very limited to their services because they're not focusing on the money, and rather they're focusing on giving services to the customers more. So they won't hold back with it.
Okay, another advantage, Farhan, of the public sector.
The loss-making services might still be kept operating. The social benefit is great enough.
Okay,
So, for example, if the public sector business isn't making any profit, but they can still provide services to the people.
okay, fine. Then what is the other advantage of public sector?
Finance is raised mainly from the government, so they don't have to worry about holding back again, and because the finance is given and raised from the government, so they can continue their services without any worry for lack of finance
Okay,
to continue the business.
very good. What is the disadvantage of public sector?
Okay, so the disadvantage is that there can be tendency towards inefficient due to lack of strict profit targets. So since like public sector businesses mainly focus on services to the people rather than profit, there can be some inefficient due to there's not much many profit being made.
Okay, fine. So you are trying to say that they will act inefficiently.
Yes, because
Okay.
they're not getting any profit or money.
What is other disadvantage of public sector, public corporations?
Subsidies from government can also encourage inefficiencies. So because the government is financing the corporation, because of that, people may sort of get very lackluster, and they won't their efficiency will drop because the government is financing the business, so they'll feel the need not to do that much work because they don't need to earn that much money.
Okay, what else? Disadvantages of public sector?
The government may interfere in the business decisions for political reasons, for example, by opening a new branch in a certain area to gain popularity. So basically, since public sector businesses are owned by governments, that's why the public sector business itself cannot make their own decisions. The government will have to make their own decisions whether they like it or not.
Hmm. Okay, fine. So we complete with private and public corporations.